It's strange, isn't it? We live in an age when we can photograph the birth of galaxies billions of light years away, yet we still don't know what lives, or if anything lives beneath a crust of ice orbiting Jupiter. We can split atoms, edit genomes, and stream cat videos from space, but we haven't even touched the ocean that might be hiding just below that frozen surface. That's the paradox of our era. Humanity's reach has never been greater, and yet our sense of mystery has never been closer to home. We gaze at Europa, a moon no larger than our own, and see more than a world. We see a question, a smooth white sphere laced with dark fractures, orbiting a gas giant that glows with the light of reflected sunlight and unspent violence. And beneath that glacial armor, we suspect, is a vast ocean of salt water, twice the volume of all of Earth's seas combined. So here we are, a species that crossed oceans of our own to map the Earth, now staring across a gulf of 600 million kilometers to ask the same question again. What waits beneath the ice? You can't help but feel that Europa is watching us back, quietly, patiently, as if to say, you learned to look up, but are you ready to look in? At first glance, Europa looks almost peaceful. A cue ball hanging in Jupiter's orbit, reflecting the distant sun like a frozen mirror. But look closer. Those dark lines that crisscross its face are not random. They are tectonic scars, records of motion and stress. They tell us that this is no dead rock adrift in the void. It's an active world, alive with internal forces. Each of those lines, those lineae, stretches hundreds, sometimes thousands of kilometers, etched by the cracking and shifting of ice plates. In some places, the crust has broken and refrozen, forming chaotic terrain like a shattered windshield remelted in place. It is the surface expression of an ocean world breathing beneath an icy lung. We can read that history the way a geologist reads sediment layers. The red and brown hues staining Europa's whiteness, they're salts traces of minerals brought upward from the ocean below? Maybe sulfates, maybe organic compounds, maybe something else. Whatever they are, they're evidence of exchange between the deep and the surface, between darkness and light. Europa is not a static moon. It is a world in motion, its tides pulled and stretched by the giant gravity of Jupiter, flexing its interior like a heartbeat. This constant flexing generates heat tidal friction that may keep its subsurface ocean liquid even in the frozen vacuum of space. Think about that. A moon orbiting 500 million miles from the sun, bathed in cold, in radiation, in distance, and yet inside there may be water, warmth, and maybe even life. How do we know all this? Not by drilling, not yet, but by listening. When the Galileo spacecraft passed through Jupiter's system in the 1,990 seconds, its instruments picked up magnetic anomalies near Europa. The readings implied the presence of a conducting layer beneath the ice, something salty and fluid, moving in ways only a liquid ocean could. That ocean, scientists believe, may be tens of kilometers deep, sealed beneath a crust of ice, perhaps 20 kilometers thick. Picture that for a moment. A global sea, trapped in eternal night, pressurized by miles of ice above it, resting on a rocky mantle that may itself host hydrothermal vents. On Earth, hydrothermal vents are where life thrives without sunlight, where bacteria feed on minerals and chemical gradients instead of photosynthesis. If similar vents exist on Europa, they could be feeding microbial ecosystems right now, creatures utterly alien to us, yet built on the same chemistry: carbon, water, energy. So maybe the question isn't whether there's life beneath Europa's ice. Maybe the question is whether we're ready to accept that life might not look anything like us. Whenever we talk about extraterrestrial life, we use Earth as our test case. Our planet is a laboratory of extremities. Boiling sulfuric pools in Yellowstone, acid lakes in Tanzania, subglacial ecosystems buried under Antarctica's ice. And everywhere we look, everywhere it seems, life finds a way. We've found microbes thriving miles beneath the crust, locked in rock pores that haven't seen sunlight in millions of years. We've found bacteria in radioactive waste and frozen glaciers, surviving on chemical energy alone. Life it seems, is less fragile than we are willing to admit. That's why Europa matters. Because if life can exist there independent of sunlight, evolved entirely around chemistry and heat, then life is not a cosmic accident. It's a cosmic tendency. It means the universe doesn't merely allow life, it encourages it. And if that's true, then the night sky becomes not a void, but a community. It's easy to forget how far we've come just to reach this question. A few centuries ago, Europa was a faint point of light in Galileo's telescope, the first moon ever seen orbiting another planet. Its discovery shattered the ancient belief that everything in the cosmos revolved around us. It was the first whisper of humility from the heavens. Now, 400 years later, the Galileo spacecraft that bore his name gave us a second whisper, that even a moon of Jupiter may harbor oceans, and that life might flourish in places we once thought impossible. In a way, every step we take outward into the solar system is also a step inward toward understanding who we are. We send probes to Europa, not just to see if something lives there, but to test whether we are ready to accept what it means. If it does, because if life exists on Europa, then the universe is not silent. It is alive in more ways than we ever imagined. And if it doesn't, if Europa is sterile, a frozen relic of chemistry without biology, then life on Earth becomes even more miraculous, and our responsibility to preserve it even greater. Either way, we win knowledge and with it, perspective. Soon, perhaps within your lifetime, a spacecraft called Europa Clipper will arrive in Jupiter's orbit. Its job, to listen, to measure, to taste the moon's secrets without touching them. Clipper will fly past Europa nearly 50 times, mapping its surface with radar that can see through ice, sniffing the thin atmosphere for molecules of salt, water vapor, or organic compounds. It will look for plumes, jets of water erupting through cracks in the crust, spraying into space like geysers. If those plumes exist, we can sample them directly, catching droplets of another world and reading their chemistry like an ancient message. And somewhere, hidden in those droplets, may be the signature of life. A molecule that shouldn't exist unless something once made it. It's hard to think of anything more profound. That the first proof we are not alone might come not from the stars, but from the darkness beneath a sheet of ice circling Jupiter. Europa isn't just a world we study. It's a mirror. It reflects back our own curiosity, our own contradictions. Because beneath its ice, there might be life waiting to be found, while here, on Earth, we're still struggling to preserve the life we already have. We look to Europa for signs of microbial persistence while extinguishing species in our own oceans at a rate unseen in millions of years. It's as if we're searching the cosmos for company while forgetting how to keep ourselves company at home. But maybe that's the lesson Europa offers, that life, when it finds the right conditions, clings on even in darkness, even in cold, even in silence. Perhaps that's what we need to remember about ourselves. Science isn't just about answers. It's about questions deep enough to redefine us. The question of Europa isn't, is there life? It's, what does it mean to be alive? If there are creatures beneath that ice, they have never seen the sun, never known stars, never imagined a surface world above them. Their entire universe would be water, salt, rock, and chemical gradients. And yet, their existence would be as real and meaningful as ours. That realization humbles us. It expands the moral circle of existence. Because if life can thrive there, then the boundary between us and everything else becomes thinner than the ice that separates Europa's ocean from the void. Now imagine the camera drifting outward, from the narrator's face to the globe of Europa to the immense shadow of Jupiter beyond, lightning flashing in its clouds. A deep, steady musical note begins to rise. If you could stand on Europa, you wouldn't hear a sound. There is no wind, no rustle of trees, no echo of life. Only the low hum of radiation striking ice, the faint vibration of distant tides kneading the crust beneath your boots. Above you, Jupiter fills half the sky, a swirling marble of storms and color, its gravity so immense that it pulls at your very bones. And beneath you, deeper than Mount Everest is tall, lies an ocean that has never seen light. Think about that. A world of water larger than all of Earth's oceans, sealed beneath ice, moving, breathing, hiding. That's not science fiction. That's reality happening right now. A mere 628 million kilometers away. We often call Europa the ocean world, but what we really mean is the unseen world. Because what lies beneath that ice is beyond our reach for now. Drilling through 20 kilometers of frozen shell in the vacuum of space isn't something we can do yet. Even if we could, the risk of contaminating that pristine environment with Earth's own microbes is too great. So instead, we listen. We use radar to map the ice, magnetometers to sense the flow of salty currents below, spectrometers to read the fingerprints of elements that have drifted upward to the surface. It's as if we are trying to understand an ocean by studying its reflection in the frozen mirror above it. But that reflection speaks in physics, in chemistry, in light. In those data, we hear whispers of motion, convection cells in the ice, pockets of liquid trapped between layers, potential pathways where ocean water may rise and freeze, carrying with it the chemistry of life. To some, these are just numbers on a graph. To others, they are a language, the language of a living planet speaking through mathematics. And if that's not poetic enough for you, remember this. We have seen the plumes. In 2012, astronomers using the Hubble Space Telescope noticed faint fingers of vapor reaching out from Europa's surface water vapor, erupting hundreds of kilometers into space. It was as if the moon itself exhaled. Not constantly, not everywhere, but sometimes as though it couldn't quite keep its secrets buried. If those plumes truly rise from the subsurface ocean, they are our window to a hidden biosphere. We wouldn't have to land or drill. We could simply fly through them, taste the vapor, analyze the salts, look for organic molecules, and perhaps, just perhaps, find the chemical signatures of life. Imagine that moment. A spacecraft sweeps through a faint mist above Europa, collecting droplets that froze 1,000 kilometers below its crust. Inside those droplets, maybe amino acids, maybe carbon chains, maybe something no human has ever seen, the first evidence that life exists beyond Earth. That moment would change everything. Not just our science, but our philosophy, our sense of loneliness, our understanding of what it means to be alive in this vast, indifferent universe. We have always asked, are we alone? It is the oldest scientific and spiritual question combined into one. For most of history, we answered it with silence or faith. But Europa is the first place where the question feels almost testable. If life has arisen there beneath ice, in darkness, under crushing pressure, it would mean that biology is not a cosmic accident, but a cosmic habit. Life, then, would be the universe's way of knowing itself in as many forms as physics will allow. It would mean that the conditions for life are not rare, but inevitable, that anywhere there is energy, chemistry, and time, the universe will try again. And if that's true, then loneliness was never part of the cosmic plan. It was only part of ours. But discovery, like gravity, carries weight. Because the moment we confirm life beyond Earth, we face a new question. What right do we have to touch it? If microbes live beneath Europa's ice, we will have found the most alien ecosystem in the solar system untouched for billions of years, evolved in isolation. To explore it means to risk changing it. To land there means to risk contaminating it. And that's where science becomes ethics. For the first time, we must decide not just how to explore the universe, but how to do so without harm. It's easy to think of humanity as pioneers, but perhaps in this next age, we must become stewards, guardians of worlds, caretakers of the unknown. Because exploration without restraint is not discovery, it's conquest. And the cosmos deserves better from us. Europa forces us to confront paradoxes like that. A world of ice that hides an ocean, a place of darkness that may harbor life, a moon locked in orbit that moves tides and time with invisible force. Every contradiction on Europa is a reflection of one in ourselves, the way we balance reason and wonder, ambition and humility, power and grace. We are a species defined by paradox. We build machines to conquer distance, and yet we feel most lost when we forget why we travel. We seek other worlds while struggling to care for the one beneath our feet. We dream of meeting alien life while barely understanding our own. But perhaps the point of discovery is not to escape our contradictions, but to recognize them, to see in the ice of another world the reflection of our own unfinished evolution. In a few years, the Europa Clipper will begin its journey, a machine built of aluminum, silicon, and curiosity. It will spend years crossing the void, powered by sunlight that has traveled nearly an hour from the sun to reach its panels. And when it arrives, it will listen. Every magnetic ripple, every thermal anomaly, every grain of salt will speak to us across time and space. It will not land. It will not dig. It will do something more profound. It will wait. It will orbit Jupiter. It will pass by Europa again and again. And in that patience lies wisdom, because sometimes the best way to learn from a world is not to disturb it, but to listen to it breathe. Here's a thought that rarely makes it into textbooks. The universe doesn't just exist. It remembers. Every atom, every photon, every pattern of motion carries the memory of what came before. The iron in your blood remembers the heart of a star. The water in your veins remembers comets and oceans and ancient moons. And perhaps the water beneath Europa's ice remembers, too, the heat of formation, the violence of creation, the chemistry of first beginnings. If that's true, then exploring Europa is more than exploration. It's archaeology at a cosmic scale. We're not just searching for life. We're searching for memory, for the story the universe has been telling long before we learned to listen. And here's the humbling part. If we do find life there, single-celled, microbial, unremarkable by human standards, it will be the most extraordinary discovery in human history. Not because it's complex, but because it's not us. It will remind us that life does not need us to exist. That consciousness is not the center of creation, but one of its many experiments. That evolution is not a ladder, but a web one that extends from the seafloor of Earth to the subsurface ocean of Europa, and perhaps beyond. And that realization, that gentle dethronement, is the essence of science. It doesn't make us smaller. It makes the universe larger. So what will we do when we finally know? When we confirm that beneath the ice of Europa, something stirs not metaphorically, but biologically? Do we send more probes? Do we protect it? Do we make treaties for a world that has never known a war? That moment will be a test not of technology, but of maturity. Because the measure of a species is not how much it can discover, but how respectfully it can treat what it finds. Europa may never see sunlight, but it may yet illuminate the best in us. Everything from the drift of continents to the hum of magnetic fields is part of a single song. And in that song, Europa is one of the quiet notes, faint, distant, but essential. If we listen carefully, we realize that it's not just a moon orbiting Jupiter. It's part of a harmony that includes us. Because in the end, exploration isn't about planets or probes. It's about connection between curiosity and humility, between science and spirit, between the question and the quest. We explore not because the universe is empty, but because it's full of questions, full of beauty, full of reminders that wonder is not a luxury. It's a responsibility. Europa may never speak to us, but if we listen long enough, we might hear ourselves reflected through the ice of another world, carried across space by curiosity itself. Because what's hiding beneath the ice of Europa might not just be life, it might be the meaning of life waiting patiently for us to grow curious enough to deserve the answer. Every probe we launch is, in truth, a bridge. Not a bridge of steel and concrete, but of intention, an arch of curiosity thrown across the gulf between what we know and what we yearn to understand. When Europa Clipper leaves Earth, it will carry more than instruments and algorithms. It will carry our oldest question packed into circuitry. Are we alone? And when it finally reaches Jupiter's realm, It will arrive carrying something else, our signature as a species that refuses to stop wondering. Each voltage reading, each pixel of ice and shadow it transmits back across the void, will say the same thing in 1,000 data packets. We are still listening, because exploration is not about conquest, it's about connection. It's how the universe grows its own consciousness, one question at a time. In the 1,960 seconds, humanity left the cradle of Earth for the first time. We weren't escaping home, we were testing our wings. The space race began as a contest of power, but it ended as a lesson in perspective. When the Apollo astronauts looked back from the moon and saw the Earth rising a tiny blue sphere suspended in darkness, that image did something no treaty, no speech, no revolution ever could. It unified perspective. It showed us that every border, every war, every ideology existed on a single pixel, glowing softly in the void. Europa, in its own way, may offer a similar moment of revelation. When we finally confirm what moves beneath its ice, we may once again be forced to redraw the map not of geography, but of meaning. Because the discovery of life elsewhere is not a threat to religion or philosophy. It's an expansion of both. The readings imply the presence of a conducting layer beneath the ice, something salty and fluid, moving in ways only a liquid ocean could. That ocean, scientists believe, may be tens of kilometers deep, sealed beneath a crust of ice, perhaps 20 kilometers thick. Picture that for a moment. A global sea, trapped in eternal night, pressurized by miles of ice above it, resting on a rocky mantle that may itself host hydrothermal vents. Will we be the species that explores, or the one that exhausts? The one that seeks understanding, or the one that consumes curiosity like fuel until there's none left? That choice is not written in the stars, it's written in policy and education, in the way we talk about science to our children. Because wonder is not inherited. It has to be taught, nurtured, and protected from cynicism. Europa reminds us that wonder is not naive. It's necessary. It's what keeps intelligence from becoming arrogance. There's a line that connects every act of exploration, from the first humans who crossed a desert they couldn't see the end of, to the engineers coding the flight paths of distant spacecraft. That line is curiosity braided with courage. And though we call ourselves explorers, what we're really doing is returning the universe's gate. Because every time we look outward, we discover a truth about inwardness. The ocean beneath Europa's ice is not separate from the ocean within us. Both are born of the same hydrogen and oxygen forged in ancient stars. Both carry the potential for life, reflection, renewal. When you realize that, you stop seeing space as out there. You realize space is everywhere. It's the medium through which matter becomes aware of itself. It's the stage on which consciousness performs the miracle of asking why. But with discovery comes responsibility. For centuries, our species has walked a fine line between curiosity and exploitation. We've mapped, mined, colonized, and consumed in the name of knowledge and progress. Now we stand on the threshold of other worlds, and the question becomes, can we learn to explore without conquering? Europa may test that answer more than any place before. Because if life exists there, even the smallest microbe, it will redefine sacred. Quote, to touch that world recklessly would be to interrupt a story billions of years in the making. To protect it would be to write a new chapter in the history of ethics, one where the universe finally sees intelligence behaving wisely. So maybe Europa's real gift isn't proof of life. Maybe it's a mirror for conscience. There's a poetic symmetry in the fact that our planet has grown, a species capable of wondering about another world's ocean. Think about that. The Earth, through evolution, has produced a way to look back at itself through reflection on others. In a very real sense, we are Earth's self-awareness, its ability to think, to dream, to care. When we reach for Europa, it's not just science, it's self-recognition. A planet of oceans reaching out to touch another ocean across the void, a world trying to understand the conditions of its own miracle. That's what makes this era extraordinary. We are not just passengers on a rock hurtling through space. We are the eyes, ears, and mind of a living planet looking for context. And in finding that context, we find purpose. Standing under a night sky, you might feel small, but that's because you're comparing yourself to the wrong thing. You are not small compared to the universe. You are proportionate to it. You are made of it, scaled to its laws, tuned to its frequencies. When you breathe, you're participating in a chain reaction that began in stars and will continue long after you're gone. When you look at Europa, you're seeing an echo of Earth's own past a frozen time capsule of what our oceans might have once been. And maybe, just maybe, beneath that ice is a creature looking upward through the dim blue light of its own world, feeling a current it doesn't understand, sensing that something vast and strange exists beyond the ice ceiling above it. In that moment, you and that creature, separated by light years of space and evolution, are united by the same instinct to wonder. One day, we will land there. We'll send a cryobot, a nuclear heated probe that melts through the ice, lowering instruments, microphones, and cameras. It will descend slowly, leaving behind a glowing trail through layers of frozen time, until it breaks through into the ocean below. It will release a small submersible, a metal fish with lights that pierce the darkness. And for the first time in history, we'll see an alien ocean, not through imagination, but through data. We'll watch currents dance around mineral towers, perhaps glints of movement in the shadows. Maybe it will find nothing but rock and salt and silence. Or maybe, just maybe, it will find life moving, feeding, existing, utterly unaware that above it all, a species once trapped by gravity learned to ask the question, are you there? When that signal returns to Earth, when the first images come through, pixel by pixel, grain by grain, it will not just be a scientific triumph. It will be a philosophical awakening. Because in that moment, the universe will have answered its oldest question through the only medium it ever needed, itself. Europa teaches us that isolation is an illusion, that even in darkness, connection finds a way, that even in silence, there is communication, if only we listen long enough to hear it. It reminds us that life is not fragile, it's stubborn, it's adaptable, and that perhaps, so long as curiosity survives, extinction is never complete. Because the true measure of a species is not how long it survives, but how far its questions can reach. So look up tonight, find Jupiter in the sky. Somewhere near that bright, steady light is Europa, quiet, cold, and waiting. And remember, while we dream of finding life beneath its ice, it's entirely possible that life beneath its ice has already been waiting to find us. That's what's hiding beneath the ice of Europa. Not just water, not just chemistry, but meaning, a reflection of ourselves patiently orbiting in the dark, waiting for us to be ready to listen. The more we learn about our solar system, the more it seems obsessed with water. Mars once had rivers that cut canyons deep enough to swallow the Grand Canyon whole. Enceladus, Saturn's tiny moon, jets plumes of vapor hundreds of kilometers into space. Even the dwarf planet Ceres hides ice beneath its dusty surface. It's as if the universe has been keeping a secret one that repeats across time and distance. Where there is water, there is potential. Europa may be the most promising of them all. It's as though in the shadow of Jupiter, the cosmos left behind a riddle written in ice. And we, having evolved on a similar ocean world, have just become clever enough to read it. But what happens after we decode it? After we learn that another ocean once, or still, carries life? It would mean the universe is not a sterile expanse of matter and math. It's a living system echoing with energy and intent. And we, the curious ones, are part of that intent. The cosmos made us to ask questions so that it could hear itself answered. We are standing on the threshold of a new kind of space race, not one driven by fear, but by responsibility. The race is no longer about flags or frontiers, it's about understanding. When the Apollo program began, it was powered by rivalry. When it ended, it left us with perspective. Now, the next era, Europa, Enceladus, Titan, exoplanets beyond will be powered by cooperation. Because to explore the universe properly, we must first learn to share a planet. Science has always been the quiet diplomat of humanity, the universal language spoken by those who would rather measure than conquer, who would rather understand than own. And if we can bring that spirit into the stars, we might finally deserve the title civilization. Kure. Think about what it took for this moment to exist. Every law of physics, every drop of rainfall, every lineage of life, all converged to produce a brain capable of wondering about its own origins. We didn't choose to be the universe's observers, but we inherited the role. We are, in essence, the sense organs of existence. When we send a probe to Europa, the universe is not being watched. It is watching itself, through us, through a camera lens aimed at a moon of Jupiter, through data that crosses the speed of light to be decoded by a creature that learned to ask why. That is not arrogance. That is participation. The cosmos has been unfolding for nearly 14 billion years, and now it has eyes, ears, and thought. We are not separate from that process. We are its continuation. So when we seek out Europa's secrets, we are not invading. We are remembering. Remembering what the universe is capable of when it decides to feel wonder. But knowledge without humility is dangerous. The same brilliance that sends a probe across the solar system can also poison a river at home. The same intellect that builds telescopes can build weapons of planetary consequence. If we learn that life exists beyond Earth, our first responsibility will not be to exploit it, it will be to protect it. The second will be to reflect on how we treat life here. Imagine finding an entire biosphere thriving beneath Europa's ice, sustained by heat and chemistry, untouched for billions of years. Would we study it, or would we preserve it? Would we call it alien, or would we recognize it as kin, another expression of the same universal chemistry that wrote the story of our own evolution? That is the question of maturity. And it may define whether we survive long enough to explore anything at all. Every time I look at Europa, I see Earth in reverse. Our oceans are free. Its oceans are trapped. Our sky is thick. Its air is thin. We live in sunlight. It lives in shadow. But we are both children of water. We are both homes to chemistry that defied entropy long enough to call itself alive. And that means Europa is not an alien world. It's a sibling, an echo, a reminder that nature's imagination is broader than ours. We look at Europa and think, how lonely must that world be? But perhaps it looks back and wonders the same about us. Because loneliness, after all, is a human invention. The universe never asked to be lonely. It asked to be aware. And through us, through Europa, through every spark of chemistry that ever danced against the odds, it got its wish. Maybe that's the real purpose of exploration, not to find new places, but to rediscover our capacity for wonder. In the rush of progress, we've mistaken knowledge for wisdom and information for understanding. But wonder, that childlike gasp in the face of the infinite, is the bridge between the two. Europa rekindles that gasp. It humbles us with scale, with silence, with the sheer audacity of existing where it shouldn't. It tells us that life doesn't ask for comfort. It asks for possibility. And that's a lesson worth remembering, not just in space, but here on Earth. Because we too live on a fragile sphere. We too depend on invisible systems of balance and flow. And we too exist by grace of the same laws that keep Europa's ocean warm beneath its ice. The cosmos is not testing us with these discoveries, it's inviting us to graduate. Someday, perhaps not in our lifetimes, humanity will build ships capable of crossing interstellar space. They will carry descendants of the same curiosity that once looked through Galileo's telescope, that sent the Voyager probes to the edge of the sun's domain, that will soon orbit Europa. And when they look back at Earth from light years away, they will see what every explorer eventually sees, that discovery and compassion are two sides of the same coin. that you cannot sustain the first without cultivating the second. Maybe by then, we will have learned that lesson. Maybe Europa will have been the teacher that made us ready, because the discovery of another ocean, another biology, another reflection of life, it won't make us less unique. It will make life itself more sacred. So here's the thought I leave you with. If we someday confirm that life exists beneath the ice of Europa, it will not be an announcement of alien arrival, it will be a quiet reunion, a recognition that the universe has always been alive and that we are just now beginning to listen to its heartbeat. It will remind us that the distance between stars is not as great as the distance between indifference and curiosity, that every act of exploration is an act of faith, not in gods, but in ourselves. Faith that reason, compassion, and imagination are enough to guide us through the dark. And when that moment comes, when the first signals of alien chemistry flash across our screens, there will be no fanfare, no fear, no collapse of meaning. There will only be awe. A single, silent realization shared by 8 billion minds. We were never alone, because we never needed to be. It will remind us that we are not the universe's chosen audience. We are part of its ongoing performance. If the 20th century was about reaching the moon, perhaps the 21st will be about reaching inward to understand what that achievement truly meant. We left footprints in dust that will outlast us, but we have yet to decide what kind of species leaves them. And in that light, reflected from Jupiter's storms, filtered through miles of frozen water, reaching us after billions of years, we glimpse what the universe has been trying to say all along. You belong here. Now act like it. There will come a time, not far from now, when a signal returns across the dark. It will travel at the speed of light, a stream of ones and zeros, carrying images, data, and the most human thing of all, hope. So what's hiding beneath the ice of Europa? Maybe microbes, maybe miracles, maybe nothing at all. But perhaps that's the wrong question. Perhaps the better question is, what's hiding beneath our own indifference? Because every time we choose to explore, to imagine, to care, we melt a little of that ice. We let the light in. It was waiting for us to become worthy of recognizing it. In that moment, the human story will pivot. It won't erase our wars or our divisions or the mistakes that scarred the world we call home, but it will shrink them. Because how could you continue to believe in the boundaries of nations when you've seen life flourishing beneath alien ice? How could you measure success and profit when you've measured meaning in photons from another world? Discovery changes scale, not just the scale of what we know, but the scale of what we value. That's why space exploration has always been more than science. It's a mirror for civilization. Each time we step outward, we see ourselves a little more clearly. When we reach the moon, we saw the fragility of Earth. When we reach Europa, we may see the fragility of life itself and the responsibility that comes with it. To explore other worlds will require more than rockets and robots. It will require restraint. We will have to learn the difference between discovery and disruption, between curiosity and consumption. For centuries, exploration on Earth meant domination, planting flags, drawing borders, extracting value. But in space, that mindset will fail us because their ownership is meaningless. You cannot own a moon. You cannot possess a vacuum. You can only share it, respect it, learn from it. Europa will be our test. Can we visit another ocean and leave it unspoiled? Can we study without scarring, touch without taking? If we can learn that discipline, then perhaps exploration will finally have matured from conquest into care. The discovery of life elsewhere will not make us smaller. It will make us family. Think of what that means. Every belief system on Earth, every culture and creed will have to expand its circle of belonging. No longer just us and them. No longer just human and animal, but life everywhere. Life as a universal phenomenon, expressed in 1,000 forms we can barely imagine. And maybe that realization will soften us. Maybe it will remind us that even here on this pale blue dot, the differences we fight over are as Thin as the ice on Europa, fragile, temporary, translucent. If microbes can thrive in eternal darkness, surely empathy can thrive in the light of understanding. There was a time when the sky was the limit. Now, the sky is the beginning. The next great age of enlightenment won't be born in universities or observatories alone. It will rise from collaboration across a planet that finally recognizes its shared destiny. Space is not a luxury. It's the next classroom. Every mission, every telescope, every question we send outward teaches us how to think inward, how to plan for the long term, how to see ourselves not as consumers of a world, but as custodians of a cosmos. We are the only species we know that can look into the night and see history, physics, destiny, all woven together in light. That awareness is our superpower. And with it comes a moral gravity we can't ignore. If we continue to explore wisely, collaboratively, compassionately, we might one day see human footprints in the dust of another world again. Not as conquerors, but as caretakers. Not to claim, but to learn. Somewhere in a control room on Earth, a scientist will lean forward, heart pounding, as the first images of Europa's ocean appear on a screen. They will be gray, at first blurry, cold, unremarkable. But then something will move. A current, a shape, a pulse of light. And for the first time in human history, we will realize that the silence of the cosmos was never emptiness, it was anticipation. The universe wasn't waiting for us to find life. And maybe those explorers will lower a small submersible into the water below, its lights cutting through darkness, its sensors reaching out like fingertips. When they find life, however simple, however small, they will whisper the same words every explorer has ever spoken when facing the unknown. We are not alone. And somewhere on Earth, billions of years older and infinitely familiar, the ocean will whisper back, "Neither were we." That's the thread that connects it all. Not technology, not power, not progress, but the question, the one that began when a child looked at the stars and wondered what they were. The one that carried us from firelight to flight, from myths to mathematics. The one that built telescopes and touched the moon. It is the same question that sends us now toward Europa, toward Enceladus, toward the edge of the galaxy itself. Because every discovery begins the same way. What if? And every act of courage that follows begins with its echo. Why not? That is what it means to be human, to never stop asking. Even when the answers are slow, even when the ice is thick, even when the night is long. So, what's hiding beneath the ice of Europa? Maybe the proof that life is universal. Maybe the lesson that survival is persistence, not privilege. Maybe the answer to questions we haven't even learned to ask. But one truth will remain. No matter what we find, the universe rewards curiosity. Every question asked in wonder, every mission born in courage, every act of science carried out in humility. These are the threads that hold civilization together. They are the forces that make chaos meaningful, that turn emptiness into story. We are not small for asking. We are vast for caring enough to ask. So when you look up tonight, when you see Jupiter glowing in the distance, remember that just beyond it, beneath layers of ice and time, another ocean waits. And maybe in that ocean, something is stirring, reaching upward, wondering if the faint light filtering through its icy sky comes from another kind of life, thinking, breathing, dreaming somewhere above. And if it is wondering, then perhaps the universe has already answered itself. One day, far in the future, the ice of Europa will crack open under the touch of sunlight and time. The ocean below will rise and meet the sky. And somewhere in that meeting between darkness and dawn, between chemistry and consciousness, the universe will remember this moment, when one small species on a distant blue world first dared to ask what lay beneath. That is the legacy of curiosity. Perhaps one day, in the far-off future, we'll build floating stations on Europa's ice bubbles of warmth, surrounded by frozen infinity. From their windows, explorers will look out upon a landscape illuminated by Jupiter's reflected light, and they'll feel what every astronaut feels when they look back at Earth: awe, humility, belonging. Every world we touch becomes another verse in the same ongoing poem, the one the universe has been writing since the first atom met the first photon. So what's hiding beneath the ice of Europa? Maybe life, maybe silence, maybe a mirror waiting for us to see ourselves more clearly. Whatever waits there, it has been waiting with patience older than humanity itself. And if we meet it, if we greet that ocean, that mystery, may we do so not as conquerors, but as kin. Because in the end, every act of exploration is an act of gratitude. Gratitude that we get to exist. Gratitude that we get to ask. Gratitude that the universe, in all its vastness, chose to become self-aware through us. When the music fades and the stars return to silence, remember this: we are not just from Earth. We are from everywhere. We are the consciousness of stardust, listening for its own echo beneath the ice of another world. And that echo, that soft, distant hum of life, possibility, and wonder, is the universe whispering back, I was never empty. I was always alive. And so are you. That's what's hiding beneath the ice of Europa. Not just an ocean, not just life, but the reflection of our own becoming a reminder that the universe is not something we explore, it's something we are.